You're tuned in to the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Callender and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Episode 104. Can you believe it? I say that every time, but can you?
I can believe it. I also believe we maybe haven't shot an episode in like 2 weeks. So it's good to see you, Kayla.
It's good to see you. What's new in your world?
What is new? I don't know. Just kind of excited for spring.
Yeah.
Although it's like, I feel like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Super nice weather. I was just talking with one of my agents and they're like, wow, we were sitting outside last night. It was so nice. And then this morning it's like 20 to 30 degrees.
It's like mortgage rates. It's like, just wait for a day and they'll change, right? It's wild. Really? I was voice messaging a girlfriend at 4:48 last night. Don't ask me why I remember, but doing the voice message, I'm like, it's beautiful outside. By the time she got it, she's like, it's awful outside. So yeah, cold day in Fargo in the Midwest, but I see an 80-degree day coming up. So we'll just hope for that, right?
Yeah, well, we won't hope. We know it. We know it will get here. We know better days are ahead. And, you know, It's really easy to look at our part of the country and think, you know, man, why do we live here? The winter, it's long, it's cold. I feel like this winter went by pretty quick. And even I was talking to a friend earlier who said, hey, we're thinking of putting our dock in here today. They were actually going to do it yesterday, but it was so windy. And so thinking about putting it in. And so, hey, I mean, if you can enjoy your lake property part of April, May, June, July, August, September, October.
Yeah.
You know, really, we have a nice amount of pretty decent weather.
Mm-hmm. We do. And when you talk about like the lake, I think about, we haven't been out there a whole lot, but we enjoy the weather until October. I mean, there's days that we still have our pontoon on the water in October and it's beautiful and you see the different colors and it's quieter. So like there's just a lot of good weather. No, it's not 80 degrees all the time, but I mean, I think we're just used to it though. Like we can handle like a 40, 50 degree day and still be out at the lake. So yeah.
Speaking of, have you guys been out lately, out to the lake?
Well, sort of. We're having some issues. So just like any homeowner, there's always projects and things, but our well pump stopped working. Our Wi-Fi had some issues and our shoreline had some damage because we face the south. So there's wind. And so we had riprap done and it's all like, pushed up. So we've been out there a bit, but, without a well pump, they couldn't dig. So we weren't out there as much. So we've been in Fargo, which is kind of crazy because I don't really know what Fargo is like on the weekends because we're always out there. But, as it warms up, we're getting excited because the dogs want to run. And I wouldn't be surprised if we put our dock in sooner than later because the ice is coming off. So, yeah. How about you guys? Are you out there?
Newsflash, the ice is practically all gone. I was up flying a couple times this week and was up on Monday actually picking up my float plane, which I'm gonna resolve to fly more than 2 times this season. Last year, just busy with kids, real estate, too much going on, but I'm going to do it. So I was picking it up and I thought, hey, I'm going to try to make my first water landing of the season. I just checked a couple of lakes just north of Fergus thinking hopefully the ice would be off. It wasn't. I didn't have time to go over to West Battle or Ottertail where I know I could have probably found a swath. But on Wednesday, I was down to St. Paul and back and all of the ice was virtually gone. So it's crazy how quickly it disappears.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just good to see. And it just gets us excited for what we know is the best time of the year around here. So amen to that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's new with you and life and Fargo and...
Not a ton. I mean, which is good. That's a good thing. We'll have a record month here that we close out, which is, a testament to, our hard work, our team, rates kind of moving, repeat clients. So we've been really busy. This week we hired my second loan partner. So team calendar is growing. So we've got myself, Anna, and now Ryan is her name. So we're, getting ready for, we know it's going to be a busy year. Dogs are great. They're still awesome, and they're pent up after, this winter. But other than that, it's just kind of like we're seeing like more people outside. You know what I mean? Like it's like Fargo's coming to life. So not a ton. We're taking a trip to Arizona soon with some friends. So I'm very much excited about that, just to get out of this like 40, 50 degree weather. So
Your first vacation in quite some time, if I recall.
first vacation, warm weather vacation in 6 years. Yeah. So we don't judge. Don't judge, Andy.
For sure. Have you been watching American Idol, and have you seen kind of the Fergus Falls native that's on it?
No, I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah. Who is it? Do you know him?
I don't know him personally. I know his dad was a pastor, and his dad passed away a couple of years ago from cancer. Excuse me. And mom is still around as well, but I got to know them pretty well in my prior life working in funeral service, and they would, if not be doing a service, they're both very talented musicians, his parents. So
Oh, wow.
they would do music quite often. So I don't know him, but I feel like I know him a little bit. And
Yeah, for
it was
sure.
really, really cool. There were, yesterday in Fergus Falls, there were a bunch of businesses that actually, donated a bunch of their proceeds,
Mm-hmm.
to him. So last night we were out and about, and we went out to Uncle Eddie's, an ice cream place downtown, which is actually owned by a contractor who he works for. And so
Sure.
people were out the door, in line, basically coming and getting ice cream, and they were, donating some of their proceeds
cool.
to Chris. So it was really, really kind of cool to see some of that. And Katie and I, we celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary yesterday. So
Wild. My gosh. What did you guys do?
she was mad at me for making this post, but basically worked on a rental property. We were I had her over working and cleaning. So no, we weren't on a vacation or some fun adventure or anything like that. But we did that and went downtown for dinner. Took the girls out for dinner. Wandered down further for ice cream, and that was that.
I love that. And are the girls excited for summer coming up?
They are. They're very, very excited. We've been spending a lot of time outside, especially in the evenings, but it's just challenging with activities and so many things going on. Like, often like we're a household where everyone's in bed between 7 and 7:30, like kid wise.
Oh,
And
it's like
we
you
don't
too?
follow. Well, depending on the day, yeah. But then I also start the day anywhere from 2 to 4 in the morning. So
I
it
know.
works perfectly. But it's getting to be challenging now that the weather's nice and
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
do?
More sun. I know. Nothing like a nice melatonin and being in bed by 8, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway,
Oh, that's awesome.
well,
Happy 10 year.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's definitely a milestone. It just seems like
Yeah,
yesterday, but life just flies.
it does. They say it does, and then you don't really see it. As you get older, you feel it more. But yeah, it really does fly by. Well, cheers to you and Katie in another 100 years.
Thank you. And you and Taryn as well. And I'm just happy you guys are getting away on a vacation somewhere.
Yeah, you and me both. We're celebrating a friend's 40th, so we're gonna hike Camelback, go to some nice dinners, and just be with friends. Like we're just
Yeah.
excited to relax. So thank you. Cheers.
And hopefully you're going to be able to step away a little bit from the mortgage piece and not worry quite as much, or is that still going to be hard?
The only thing that's tough is the one thing I've stopped doing, Andy, is I think I've talked about this before, is I reserve my nights and my weekends for clients that are committed. If I've got a client that's brand new and they're like, hey, I found a house, we want to write an offer, I've started to say, you know what, like we have a process, we want to take care of you. It's more than just giving you a letter. So I've gotten a lot better about that as the business has grown. But, every now and then someone needs an updated letter. They want to make sure their numbers look right. They want to chat through a strategy. I love that. Like that, I can step away anytime. But, I used to be on call and I would be running pre-approvals at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and clients wouldn't get the house and they'd leave for a year. And so it's just really setting boundaries so that, I'm present with those that are around me or the clients that are committed to working with my team. So,
But
yes.
those individuals you were writing for, 9 o'clock on Saturday night, and you call them clients and they disappear for a year, were they really clients?
Well, exactly, right? It's like, I hear you're the best, but sometimes what clients don't realize is being the best is not about just being fast. Yes, there's a time in this industry where speed is important and speed can win, but there's a difference between having speed and helping someone with an emergency that shouldn't have happened because they've known they should have done this, a year ago. So,
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind, and this is in general in life, but especially in sales, is most people will never and have no intention of working with you.
mm,
Even people that know you, family members, friends, they're not necessarily going to work with you. And, once you resolve yourself to that fact, life goes better because then
mhm.
you can set some standards. And I look at the standards we have
Yeah,
in our business and our team. Of course, I tell is now on my team, there are 6 of us that are licensed agents,
awesome.
and most everyone is younger in the business but similar in age to you and I
Yeah,
tell them often early on, you're going to have to take more at bats if you want to
yeah,
grow your business, but let me help you cut some corners. And a big part of that is not doing free consulting for people, not chasing people,
yeah,
ultimately getting them to come into the office to meet with us, whether they're buying or selling. If they're willing to do that, there's a very high likelihood that we're going to have a successful relationship.
mhm.
Otherwise, just being an order taker, or just going and opening doors and being a tour guide. I even had an agent reach out who's not even from Minnesota. I think he has a Minnesota license, but said, "Hey, yeah, I've got a buyer coming to town. He's going to go to some open houses. Can you just open the door at one of your properties for him and let him in?"
Oh, wow.
And and as agents, we do have a duty to make it easy for the properties we have listed to get shown, and take down any barriers. But I that's a big pet peeve of mine, Kayla, because if roles were reversed, I would certainly refer those buyers out
Yeah,
to that area, a state away they were looking at, even if I was licensed, if I was unable to be there. And I've
mhm.
got a lot of places and some long distances to sell properties, but I'm not going to try to get an agent to do my work for me. Um, and I've seen a lot of laziness this year from other agents in
Sure.
terms of how they put their listings online, the presentation, awful photos. I've
Mm,
seen some agents, and I think I talked about it earlier, that, hey, aren't even, uh, they have a buyer doing their own home inspection, and hey, they're not going to attend it or even, let the buyer, hey, can the buyer just access the house themselves? Buyers basically saying, I checked in actually with the same agent and I said, hey, how did the appraisal go? Are there any concerns on value or condition? Well, according to the buyer, no, there's nothing. It's like, well, okay, would you please do your job and reach out to the lender and confirm that?
yeah,
Because, kind of hanging this on the buyer and thinking that they know what they
yeah,
should be asking.
yeah,
So it's all the more I look at, down the road technology, I look at AI, and I look at, there are a lot of people freaking out, hey, my job's going to be gone. And a lot of people are going to lose their job. And
yeah.
actually, a lot of people deserve to lose their job in contexts like that, because you're providing nothing, no service
Mhm.
for your client.
Well, and that's just it too, is you hit it spot on. It's like, yeah, I love when a realtor and a client, or we're all in the same text string or email about like running numbers on a house, or a client reaches out to me and says, "Hey, can you run numbers on this home?" I'm like, "Well, does the realtor know? Like, are you looking at it? We want to tell the realtor what the closing costs are because you need closing costs covered, and your closing date impacts your closing costs." So, I mean, in general, that communication has to be across the board, and we cannot rely on just the buyer. And I think that is probably more common now that you mention it, Andy, is like, oh yeah, the client's gonna figure it out, but it's such a more like smoother process when the realtor's involved. So a lot of times I don't have to really let a realtor know, like, hey, the client's not getting us their docs. But I had one recently where I'm like, hey, realtor, this client has not gotten us docs. We closed in 2 days. We are pushing it. And I had to get the realtor involved because a lot of times clients think, oh, yeah, we close on Thursday. We'll just get the docs then. And it's like when you're all on the same page and you're all in it to win it, doesn't it make such a difference when people just communicate?
Huge. And you and I both dread when we see certain names in our inbox, whether it's an offer or a communication or something, right? And it's like, oh boy, this is going to be challenging. I'm going to be doing their work too. Or
Yeah.
some that, hey, this is going to be very pleasant.
Oh, yeah. I get, my whole team gets excited when we see certain realtor names, and every now and then I'll see like one of my team members be like, thank goodness it's her, thank goodness it's him, because we just know it's going to be a smooth process. And I was talking to my colleague here the other day, and he's like, isn't it wild how when clients just trust that you're going to do the job, that you're the expert, he's like, isn't it just so much easier? And it's like, amen. When we need something, and a realtor or a listing agent, appraiser, insurance agent, client, when everyone gets us items faster, we can execute much quicker and get a faster pre-approval. So I've got clients that, we closed last week and they didn't get their insurance finalized till the day before closing. Well, guess what? We can't figure out final numbers or final approval or any of that. So we give people the benefit of the doubt, but like, we really have to push some people, but communication goes a long way.
I've seen, that makes me think, I've seen in commercial transactions where the buyer comes to the closing table, and of course using a small town bank, not escrowing anything, and they don't even have insurance in place on the day of closing. And the local banker's like, well, yeah, just get that figured out as soon as you can, and get it over to us. And it's like, ooh, that's a little bit challenging and a little bit risky.
Yeah, amen. And I think at the end of the day, like, the sad part is sometimes clients don't realize who they're working with until it's too late. You know what I mean? And vice versa. But ultimately, that's where people just need to do their research, and you just got to surround yourself with those people. And we talk about it all the time, Andy. Surround yourself around those people you want to work with, but we can't help who we work with sometimes too. So
I always dread, and in fact, I had someone I'm close with reach out today asking my advice on an offer they received, and they're not working with me. And I said, shouldn't you be calling your agent? And they said, yeah, about that. Or this will probably be the last time we work with so-and-so.
Yeah.
So yeah, life is always very interesting. So
especially in real estate, man.
do you have any fun stories or anything unique that's happened lately?
I feel like I don't want to be a Nancy, but like I'm seeing offers submitted, Andy, offers submitted without pre-approval letters or pre-qualification letters, if you will. I've had 2 or 3 in the last week where they said, we found a house, we're writing an offer. And the one I'm like, okay, we got to get an app. We got to have a conversation. And by the way, I'm so shocked. Sorry, I'm going to say it. I'm going to ruffle some feathers, and I don't care. Is that if you are a real estate agent, a realtor, you would not show someone a home without, you need to have written consent, of course. They have to sign certain documentation, but you're not going to just start showing homes randomly to people, even if they are in contract with you, if you haven't had a conversation of what city do you want to live in, what neighborhood, what are your wants, your needs, your hopes, your yeses, your nos. But
sure I am, because the buyer knows where they want to be in. They know what they want. So I'm just here to open doors for them.
You're just here to open doors. Yeah. Well, it just shocks me that, okay, some realtors think that, they would never do that, but they think, hey, can you just get these clients pre-approved? But they've never talked to you. You don't know their financing. An application will ask your social security number and your date of birth, but it doesn't ask like, how much money are you going to make from the sale of your home? And what is your realtor listing it for? And what are they charging? And hey, do you want to pay off any debt with your proceeds? And what is your budget? And so pre-approval is seen as just a piece of paper. And I'm seeing that so much more lately of like, just go get the letter. But clients don't understand anything about their financial picture. So my point is, you need a buyer consult as a realtor, and you need a buyer consult as a loan officer. Otherwise, we're order takers. We're just like, I think they can put 20% down. They've got money in their bank account, but how do I know that they don't have a big debt to pay off without talking to them? So I'm seeing, Andy, just a lot of, we just need the letter, but clients have no idea what the payment is or their situation. So have had a couple of those lately, more than I can say. And then I've just seen a lot of clients not responding. We
ghosting you?
Yeah, but then they're not necessarily like leaving us, they're just not responding, to the point of like, I've had to get financial advisors involved, I've had to get realtors involved, I've had to get spouses involved, like, hey, have you heard, can you, and some people are on vacation, or some people just don't think it's a big deal. But I'm seeing a lot of lack of communication and a lack of people reading reading emails. I don't know what's going on. It's like full moon the last month, but just it just surprises me, I guess. So not to be a
Yeah.
Nancy, but that's just the facts of what I'm seeing lately.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to see more of that. I think going
Yeah.
forward, there's so many distractions
Yeah.
and things out there, and I think a lot of people look at your email and they begrudgingly provide you things, and kind of thinking, well, why do I have to do that? I mean, we've even seen some buyers, that we work with as well. Well, my brother told me this, and when my brother
Yes.
bought a house, this was what you're telling me is wrong. It's like, what, your brother's circumstances were,
Yeah.
vastly different.
Well, even when you have a parent come in on a home inspection, I'll have a parent come in on, well, my parents are going to look at the estimates you sent. And they're like, they don't want to know what this odd days interest is. And I'm like, yeah, that's daily interest you pay because you're going to be in the house. It's like things have changed and moved and they're not the experts, but yet they go to them for the help, which naturally, I mean, you go to your parents, but sometimes I feel like that honestly gets in the way. So,
Well, speaking of parents, Kayla, you're gonna have to get used to the parents being in the picture, because I was just clicking around a little bit and found this Realtor.com article uh, that says withdrawals from the bank of mom and dad hit record highs as Gen Z battles
mm,
2026 home prices. So you like the graphic there, the bank of mom and dad?
I do. Where's that bank?
So we talk about this a lot, and it'll be a great lead into our Next Gen Homebuyer report that we'll talk about. But hey, we talk about it frequently, Kayla. The dream of home ownership is difficult, especially for the younger generations, just
Yeah.
because, again, I think we can agree most individuals today of the younger generations are not as well off as their parents were, um, at kind of the same point in their life. And we talk about the median age of first time home buyers jumping to 40. We talked about that last year, up from 30 in
Yeah.
1990. Home prices rising nearly twice as fast as incomes. So you
Mm.
complain about mom and dad with the home inspection, but you're going to be great if you want to do business, Kayla. You're grateful for mom and dad and the
Yes.
bank of mom and dad, right?
Yeah, we see a lot of gifts. I'll talk to a client. Again, here's where this discovery call and this consult comes in is, hey, I see you got $5,000 in the bank. Well, that barely covers closing costs. So where's your down payment going to come from? What are you thinking? Do you need assistance? A lot of times we're hearing, oh, mom and dad are going to give me 10 grand, 100 grand, 300 grand. Well, that makes a huge difference on a pre-approval. And a lot of times clients don't think to mention that until we're in it, but we see a lot of it, quite a bit.
Kayla, this article talks a little bit about the fact that a whopping 6 in 10 parents have
Mm.
provided or plan to provide financial assistance, whether with a down payment, a cash gift, or assisting with closing costs. And meanwhile, Wells Fargo found 64% of Gen Zers rely on their
Mhm.
parents financially, whether for money, housing, or other support.
I believe that. We also see a lot of clients that they get qualified and then they say, "Hey, mom and dad are actually just going to pay cash, and then we're going to figure it out later, like a refi." But I mean, I would say every other probably pre-approval we have, there's a conversation about a gift or a potential gift.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah, not a bad thing. It's nice that parents can step in.
yeah.
I think it's a great thing because, we
Mhm.
talked about the two biggest ways episodes ago to build wealth, and it's, retirement accounts and also home ownership.
Yeah.
Even though some people regard a home as, a liability, it's forced appreciation for most people. And if not for those, two pieces,
Mhm.
an employee sponsor retirement account with a match or a home, most people would not be building wealth.
And every time I have a conversation with a client about, home buying, we talk about that forced appreciation. I'm like, what else do you buy that appreciates like this? And so I'm like, you spend 10 grand on rent a year and you just made 20 grand in appreciation on a home. That's a 30 grand difference. Like they forget about that. They just look at payments. So if parents can help with that, them achieve that, more power to them.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
Kayla, let's segue into the 2026 Next Gen Homebuyer Report. Talk a little bit about this, what it is, and
Yeah.
why you like it so much.
Yeah, I love the Next Gen Homebuyer Report because it surveys, this research project was 9,000 respondents since 2020. And for this survey, it was 1,000 Gen Z and millennial consumers in January of 2026. And so First Home IQ, so I'm an ambassador with First Home IQ. I think I'm the only one in North Dakota, but I love it because they provide resources for high schoolers, college kids, just essentially empowering the young to know their options with home ownership. So Kristen Messerly, she's the executive director of First Home IQ. She puts together this report, and I love it because every time I see it, I'm always shocked. I even though I'm like, okay, some of it doesn't surprise me, but when we look at the demographics and how it's an age range of 18 to 44 years old, 1,000 people in 1 month, what their responses were to some of these questions, I was pretty shocked. And there's a lot of data in here. Yeah, if you go to, I was going to say page 9. So on here, this little graph talks about home ownership remains central to the American dream, in which 8 in 10 report home ownership is essential to making it. And, I think that a lot of people feel that way. When I ask clients, what's your reason? Well, I just feel like I need to grow up and buy a house. A lot of them say that. And I think that aspiration, that dream is there for everybody. I think a lot of people just don't think that they're qualified or they have some work to do. But seeing the first time home buyer age of 40, I think by that time people are like, I need to stop renting. I need to stop throwing money away. So I like that. If you go to page 10, it talks about people just wanting stability. They want stability. They want, to feel safe. A lot of people think that they missed the boat. But really, ultimately, we always talk about when's the best time to buy real estate. Well, yesterday. So if you can't, today, let's do it tomorrow. But there's also the belief that home ownership is a good investment. That belief dropped by more than 0.5%. So what's causing that? Like, why are they believing that? And I think it's down to the cost, the cost of insurance, the cost of taxes. Keep scrolling down, you'll see 3/4 of next gen buyers believe home ownership is harder than it was for their parents. And Andy, I don't know about you, but I feel like it is a little bit harder as well with guidelines, with, increased prices compared to income. I think that that's real. And I think people think that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be committed to this mortgage, and it scares them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. And I just so many more hoops to jump through. And I think today, I think a lot of people have a real problem with commitment, Kayla. And I think that it comes with jobs, it comes with relationships, it comes with things like home ownership. I mean, there were some people, I really loved, on page 9 where it talked about, basically the American dream. And most people, of course, financial independence, home ownership, stability at home, the ability to choose a career path, freedom to live on their own terms. I mean, yeah, that's the American dream. It's defined by this. But I think that's really awesome to see. But yeah, I think there are a lot of challenges out there, but it's come opportunity as well.
Well, absolutely. And question for you, do you think men or women are more likely to save? Andy, what are your thoughts on that?
Women.
Men are more likely to save regularly, 72% versus 56% on page 12, bottom. And more likely to maintain a budget, 81 versus 68. Wow. I don't know. I think women have, the
shopping,
purse, shoe, hair. I mean, it's harder for us, man. Like, I can't say that stat's not accurate. What's that?
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be. But I mean, I thought that was telling. But the other thing I want to talk about on this report on the top of page 13, it talks about the overqualification myth. And despite strong financial habits, next gen buyers may be over-prepared. I love this commentary here. I think sometimes, and I see this a lot, clients say, I just have to get my stuff in order and I need to increase my credit score and I need to do some work. But I say, well, who's telling you need to do that? And they say, well, nobody, but I just think I need to get my stuff together more. Well, most people are qualified and then they wait, prices go up, maybe they switch jobs or they have a late payment or something, and they just don't think they can do it. And I remember back in January, I think it was 2 or 3 people within a week that happened with me. And within the next week, they were out shopping for homes. So I'm seeing a lot of that. People are kind of just getting in their head about it. Are you seeing that too at all? Or I suppose you probably see people after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are all over the place, but yeah, I think you're right. And I think so many people, um, they're just, we get into the perfection trap. And it just made
Mhm.
me think of John Acuff's book Start, where it
Mm,
talks about a lot of people, living in fear and just being worried, or even, I think in my own life where, hey, I've
mm.
had plans to launch something or do something. Well, it's not quite perfect. It's not ready to go. It's like, get it going and just start and just do it today. Because I mean, if
Mhm.
you wait for absolute perfection, it's probably never going to happen.
I'm super guilty. Same thing. Like it's just, oh, it won't be great. Well, you just have to do it. So that takes me to like if you go to page 17, fear, it talks about the fear of a buyer as well. And fear of being taken advantage of, fear of pressured into decisions not being the right ones, fear of not being told about better options. I think right now people have access to social media and AI and ChatGPT and Claude, and they're asking. And Andy, I had a client yesterday. She had spoken with 4 different lenders, and she was told 4 different things because some clients have or some lenders have different products. Some believe other things work better. But I said to her, I said, did any of them verify your part-time income? Well, no. And I said, well, if we can use more income, you don't have to pay off this debt at closing. Like that's a good thing. Or if we verify that we can't use this income, you may qualify for North Dakota housing. And so many individuals, they hear different things. And I think, the whole shop around thing is great, but it can backfire. It's so much information overload. You know what I mean?
Yep, for
And
sure.
I see that quite a bit. But, that's why I think now more than ever, we have an ability as professionals, like it or not, to build trust and build your brand online. I think that I get clients that want to work with me because they're like, hey, I've followed you. I see what you have to say. You seem like you care. You seem like you educate. Now more than ever, we've got, this thing in our hands that we can build that trust without, having one-on-one contact. So,
Mhm.
but I do see a lot of that. What are your thoughts on the fear? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but um, what would you say is something that clients could do to overcome that fear of like fear of a lender not giving them good advice, fear of a realtor pushing them into a house that they don't need?
I think there are a lot of experts out there
Hmm.
that realize people get excited. They start talking about their real estate goals, and then all of a sudden, everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is okay, yep, you need to go find people that you trust in life, but probably don't shout from the rooftop what your plans are
Yeah.
because everybody's going to have an opinion. And
Yeah.
that isn't always a positive thing, which I think leads to more fear because, again, you talk about 4 professional lenders giving contradictory advice. Imagine, 20 family and friends, same
Well,
thing.
right. They do the same thing. And I think that there's just so much information out there to access, and AI, I think it can just confuse people. I also would say clients, instead of just calling a lender to ask about rates, you should do your research and Google and find ways to pull up numbers or whatever you can to learn about the individual, because I think that people confuse rate with quality or rate with experience. And so I would challenge anyone that's listening to this that's a home buyer to do your homework. If you really are wanting to shop for the best, don't just make it about price, make it about the person as well.
I,
Um,
I found that interesting kind of near the end of this report, Kayla, where it talked about who do people turn to
yeah,
first?
you too.
43% to a real estate agent, 35% to a financial advisor, and the lowly loan officer comes in at 26%.
Which just
Although,
blows my mind.
interestingly enough, humans are trusted slightly more than AI. 45%
Mhm.
trust human professionals more, 38% trust both equally, 12% trust AI more, and 6% would not trust either. So if you can't trust a human or AI, who do you turn to?
Well, right. I mean, that's telling. But I think, I've got a lot of people that are not lenders that try to speak and say, oh, yeah, you should be able to do this, this, and this. And I've had to call the realtor and say, that's not a thing. Like, and I actually, Andy, for the first time, I think the other day, I said, please do not listen to your realtor. You are getting bad advice and this is confusing you. And she kept talking about, well, my realtor said, I'm like, your realtor is here to find comps, to sell you a home, to show you homes, to help you in that capacity, what a price is worth and what you should negotiate, and the legalities of the paperwork. This is lending and financing, and how many loans has your realtor done? And so I had to say that because this client was so confused, and I think you're exactly right. So many people think that they're the experts, and it just confuses clients.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I was going to say the last thing I want to touch on was, if you just scrolled up just a little bit to page 19, it says where Next Gen researches home ownership is YouTube, AI, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. I mean, does that surprise you, or does that feel like pretty on par for what you thought?
I look at, a lot of people they always say go to TikTok, to Instagram, to Facebook to be entertained, to get educated. A lot of people go to YouTube. So that's not surprising. I did, breaking down on the next page where it talked about the preferences. I know you're big on Claude these days. I use Claude a little bit. Otherwise, ChatGPT is still my daily driver. I use Manus for a lot of, coding and more complex projects. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. I do hear a lot of people talking about Claude. So maybe if you want to get more in tune with the consumer, Kayla, and boost your trust level, you need to go back to ChatGPT, I think is what that's saying.
Maybe. I mean, it's crazy what ChatGPT will tell you, and I'm looking for a lender and what it pulls, and I'm looking for a real estate agent. How is it pulling that data? But I think, there's just going to always be noise, always. So, but no, ultimately, I think this report is just super telling. If you are a lender or a realtor, I think that you can learn a lot from this report. We talked about it. I do a monthly agent Zoom, and we talked about it last time. And it's like, get out there and, provide your audience on social media with information, because there's so much misinformation out there. Like, be the one that, kind of breaks through those barriers, because the more people that we have talking about the truth and educating, the more it wipes out that expert that thinks that they know what they're talking about.
Right on. Well, a lot of great information. Episode 104 is in the books.
We did it. Will we get
great
to 104?
Connecting, and let's do it again next week. But in the meantime, have a great weekend, Kayla.
I will if you will.
See ya.
Bye.